sometimes the equation of a circle we're given is not in standard form, like this equation down here. And so what we're going to want to do is rewrite this in standard form, and to do that we're going to have to use an old technique we haven't used in a while, something called completing the square. So I'll briefly show you how this works in this video here. However, if you need more of a refresher, maybe you want to look up completing the square on my YouTube channel and see if you can find some more details about that if you need a little more details. So here's what we're going to what we're asked to do. Let's rewrite this equation first in standard form. Once we do that, we should be able to find the center and the radius of the circle without too many issues. So to start this, here's what I want to do. I want to do a little bit of rearranging and grouping. I want to start with, and I'm going to use a set of parentheses, I want to start by grouping all my x terms together. So x squared, then the plus 4x, and also I want to do a plus blank. That plus blank, when we did completing the square before, I always called that the magic number. So we'll leave that blank for right now, but it's always going to be a positive sign right there. Alright, so next set of parentheses then, let's group all our y terms together. So a plus sign is going to be in between the parentheses, always for circles. Grouping my y terms together, I've got a y squared right here, minus 6y. And then once again, I want to do plus a blank to represent that magic number. Alright, so I'll close off the y parentheses, and then finally I want to move the constant term, that 12, to the other side of the equation. So I'll move that over and make that a negative 12 on the other side. Okay, so that's my first step. Let's get x's and y's grouped together. Now I want to go ahead and find that magic number, and if you recall how that works, finding the magic number means taking the b value, which is this value right here, dividing it by 2, and then squaring that result. Okay, so that's how we go about finding the magic number. So let's go ahead and do that. So if I take the b value, which is 4, and divide that by 2, I get 2. 2 squared is equal to 4, so my magic number ends up being 4. 4 is its own magic number. Here's the thing though, if I add a 4 to the blank right here on the left side of the equation, I've got to make sure that I add a 4 on the other side as well. Okay, so let's go ahead now and, so there's our first magic number for this. Let's go ahead and do the green side, the y part of this equation. So I think this was the green color I used. So if I do this one more time, I'm going to take the b value. Nope, not the same green. Oh well. Take the b value and divide it by 2, so that becomes negative 3. And then square the result. Negative 3 times itself is a positive 9. That magic number will always be a positive value right there. But once again, if you add 9 to one side, you've got to add 9 to the other side as well. Okay, so there's the first couple steps of my problem, finding the magic number for the x and y. Here's what makes that number magical. And again, if you need more of a refresher, go back and find my completing the square video. What makes that magical is I can now factor these two sets of parentheses, okay? And they'll always factor a certain way. I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to 4 and add up to 4. Those two numbers work out to be 2 and 2. In other words, I can factor this into x plus 2 times itself, or x plus 2 squared. That's what it means to complete the square. We end up with a set of parentheses squared. And if you recall what the equations of our circle are used to looking like, they usually look something like this. Alright, let's do the second set, the green set of parentheses. I want to find two numbers that multiply to 9 but add up to negative 6. The two numbers that do that will be negative 3 and negative 3. So y minus 3 squared. Okay, so looking more and more like a circle the further we go. Finally, I'll get the other side of my equation simply by adding up all those values. So negative 12 plus 4 plus 9 gets me a total of 1 for the other side. And just like that, voila, we have our equation now in standard form like we're used to seeing. Okay, and what's nice about standard form is the second part of the question. We can find the center pretty easily, and we can also find the radius of this circle pretty easily. So the center is made up of the h and k values. Those are the numbers in the parentheses with x and y. Just be sure to change those signs, change those signs around. So my center of this circle should be at negative 2, positive 3. And finally, the radius is going to come from this last value. Remember, that number in the equation represents the radius squared. So if the radius squared is 1, I can simply take a square root of both sides. And I see that this time, well, my radius works out to be 1. 1 is its own square root there. So there we go, using completing the square to get an equation in standard form, and then once again describing the center and the radius of that circle.